What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I apologize to anybody that's subscribed, which is not many of you, but I apologize that I haven't posted in a while. I did post a couple of videos a couple months ago. When I started the channel, I had been talking about a trip that I was going to be taking with my family to the Grand Canyon, and we trailered the bikes up there. Back in October, I think it was. Late September, early October. And that was a beautiful trip. And I was planning to have more video to upload. But when I got there, the mic that I have in this helmet, I realized I had snagged a wire, I guess, while the helmet was bouncing around in the car. And so I ended up having to post the couple of videos that I posted with just music, which I think was fine, but less than 100 views. Less than 100 views in, I already had somebody complain about the music. So to that person, I apologize for the music. I'm sorry it ruined your day. So if you see my other videos, you probably noticed that this bike is a different color. I painted it not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, in fact. The reason I painted it, I actually liked the white. It was the factory pearl white. I actually liked that color, but it was starting to yellow on the rear fender, and it had a couple of scratches on the tank that I had, kind of touched up with one of those paint pens once upon a time. And so it could have stood to be painted, but I didn't really want to repaint it white. I thought I'd paint it something else. So I was always a fan of the old Indian red. It's kind of a darker red, and this came out darker than I intended. So once this gets scratched up, I'll probably paint it again and go a little bit easy on the black and do a little bit more red and a little bit less black. I've done a few other things to this bike since October. I didn't post for a while because I didn't ride for a while. I live near Dallas, here in Texas, and during the winter time, I'm not really one of those. I'm very much a fair weather rider. I'm not one of those that's gonna strap on all the leather and do the heated gloves and all the stuff that some riders do. If I had that stuff, I might use it occasionally, but I kind of like to feel the wind. I honestly don't even wear a helmet most of the time, but I wear it when I take video like this. Another thing I've added, obviously, is the windshield. It's a very short windshield, but you know, it works pretty well. I actually like the height. I can see over it, so I don't have to worry about it being covered in bugs and not being able to see past it, that kind of thing. But it actually does, it makes a good fly screen. If anybody's familiar with those fly screens, they're itty bitty windshields. And, you know, they may work on some bikes. The last bike I tried a fly screen on, it didn't do anything. But this actually is tall enough that it really does kind of deter any bits of sand, bugs. That was one thing that always bothered me about not having a windshield, is you get on the interstate, and if you have a semi up in front of you within 100 yards, they're just kicking up so much dirt and sand that it's just, you know, 65 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour on the interstate, and those specks of sand tend to hurt. One other thing I did to this bike that I really like is I outfitted it with the 25-tooth Kawasaki front pulley. And some people are familiar with what I'm talking about. I can't remember what bike it was or what bike it's from, but it's a 25-tooth pulley. And it changes the gearing a little bit from the 23-tooth. And essentially what it does is you're going to get a little bit more speed from a little bit less engine work. So I think my first video that I posted, I did a short highway trip, and I was doing 70 on the freeway, and I think I was doing 5,000 RPMs. And if you know this bike, anything above 4,300 RPMs on this bike is just too buzzy. It's such a high frequency of vibration that it kind of starts for an extended period of time. Everything just starts to fall asleep. It just kind of makes your hands go numb, your feet go numb. So now, my speedometer is a little bit off. From what I've read, going from the 23-tooth to the 25-tooth is an 8% gearing change. So around town at the lower speeds, I am in neutral. I'm going to pull over so we can look at the bike, see what I did to it. So yeah, that's the color it is now. Do a walk around. I painted the engine and the pipe too, and the paint that I used does not. It was engine paint. It obviously doesn't withstand the heat that the header creates. But one thing I do like about this paint job, though, is that, like, at this angle, it almost kind of looks black. But you get it at a different angle, and it's very much red. And then one other thing that I did was I changed the seat. This is the original seat, and I just kind of reworked it. And one thing I did, basically what I did, is I kind of hollowed out the center section of the foam. I left some of the original foam, and then I put kind of a softer, cushier foam. My first video, I had taken some soft foam and just put over the whole seat. And I think that, I don't know, it seemed like that kind of maybe was the wrong thing to do. It kind of didn't seem like it supported you enough. So what I did is I reworked this seat and I put a 2-inch block. I think that truck's going to stay there. I put a 2-inch block right here, and I screwed it into the seat pan from underneath. And then I put another block that kind of ramps downward, and then I took a little bit of this foam off of the back end to kind of give it a sportier look. So now this seat's about worthless. But what it did for the driver's seat is I get this support all the, not all the way up my spine, but a little bit up my spine. And it just makes a whole world of difference. I was not a huge fan of the original S40 seat, and I ended up getting one of the two-piece Savage seats, one of the older generation seats, and it was an improvement over the way that this seat was originally. So yeah, now that it supports my lower back a lot better, I wouldn't mind putting a couple of footrests kind of up front, where you can rest your feet when you're on the highway cruising, and put your feet up, kind of extend your leg. Not that I'll be taking any long cross-country trips on this thing, but that would be fun. If I ever did that, I would definitely have to get some video. But yeah, one thing I love about this new pulley is, right now I'm cruising at 55. Well, one thing I should have done is I should have mounted my phone right here with one of the GPS speedometer apps, because like I said, my speedometer is off. It now reads a little bit slower. What I've read from the forums is because they can tend to read a little bit slower anyways. So we'll get on the highway, on the tollway here in a minute, and see what the reading is at 70 miles an hour. I think it's probably the same because I don't know. I don't really know how engines work. The speedometer cable I know goes straight into the engine, so the speedometer I think is getting its reading from engine revolutions and not from the wheel. So with any gearing change that you were to do to this bike, if you were still using the stock speedometer, I would think that no matter what speed you're going, your tach is always going to read the same amount of revolutions given a certain speed. But enough rambling. If you're thinking about doing the 25 tooth pulley because you get on the highway a bunch, if you like to cruise around town, you know you probably don't need the 25 tooth pulley. But if you ever get on the highway and you have to do any extended trip, I would say it's a must. That's one of the things that I didn't like about this bike when I got it. I loved the way it handled around town. It's so light and it's so nimble. You can just manhandle the heck out of it. But when you get it on the highway, if you get it, if you're going fast enough to keep up with all the other traffic, you're going to be pulling a lot of revolutions, and it's just it's going to be uncomfortable. Some people probably don't mind it, but like I said, it gets to buzzing enough like that, and I'm starting to go numb. And this bike, it really likes to be between 3,000 and 4,000 revolutions. And now on the highway, I'll generally read about 4,100 RPMs, keeping up with traffic, and if that's reading 65 miles an hour on the speedometer, then I'm really going about 71, 72, I think is what it said when I was using the GPS speedometer app to check my actual mileage. And I'll have to look at the app, see which one I downloaded. I checked it with my car, and it was actually shockingly accurate. And so I didn't check it before, before I did the pulley change, I did not check it with the Speedo app. But I'm willing to bet the speedometer, even if it's off from the factory a little bit, I bet it was not as off as it is now. But it's one of those things that I'll just kind of make a mental note of it, and if I see a cop, I'll slow down a little bit. Then again, I could always just take that speedometer needle, rip that sucker off of there, and set it to about 3 or 4 miles per hour instead of 0, considering I never look at it when I'm not moving and it's at 0. And then if I'm ever going more than, 25 to 35 miles an hour, fast enough to even look at your speedometer, it'll actually be a little bit more accurate. Who knows? I may not actually take the time to do that. I would also be interested to see what my long distance mileage would be. Even before the windshield and the new pulley. I took this bike. I rode with my dad and my uncle. We took a short day trip to Oklahoma. I referenced my mileage before we left when we filled up the gas station, and when I filled up again, I checked my mileage again, and this bike, the way it was, it got just over 60 miles to the gallon. And I'm betting it would get more than that now, since it's not having to work as hard at a cruising speed. But, since the speedometer's not right, it's probably going to count the same amount of miles. So, it's one of those things. I may get if I ever decide to mess with it, maybe I'll get an aftermarket speedometer, something you can calibrate. But yeah, right now I'm doing 50 according to the speedometer, but we're probably actually doing about 55, and I'm in 4th gear, and we're doing about 3,800 RPMs, and this is comfortable. So I mean, if you're thinking about doing the pulley, I strongly recommend it. If you get on the forums and you read all about it, there's installation notes and everything, and there's some guys out there that are buying the pulleys and doing the mods and powder coating them and all that stuff, but and those are good buys. That would be worth it. I got mine off of eBay for, I don't know, I'll have to go back. It was not very much. I think I got it for 25 bucks. And I did the mods myself. I actually just used a router. And I think that the ones that you get off of the forums or off of some of the, I don't know, some of the modding sites that are out there for these bikes, they use a lathe. And I've actually got a CNC machine, but the CNC uses a router, and I thought, well, instead of doing all the engineering, I think I'd rather just route it by hand, do really slow passes and shallow passes. And that'll likely get it done, and I got it done. And it really wasn't a big chore to get on there. Get around this guy, I think. It's going a little slow. Wish I'm going a little fast. Hope there's nobody shooting radar. Right, this is the toll road here. So this will be a good check. The mic at all. I'm doing 70 there. RPMs are still showing 5,000, but it's not vibrating quite as much. So I'm gonna slow back down to what says 65. Thing is, like I said, now that pulley and the speedometer being off, that 65 right there is actually a little over 70. So we're doing about 70 at about 4,500 RPM. So if I slow down a little bit more to, okay, that's 60, so that's probably about 65. So we're going 65 here. I'm doing about 4,200 RPMs. And you know what? This is tolerable right here. You could do this for a good ways. Also a rear pulley mod. I kind of wonder if that would be too much of a gearing change. I'd be suspicious that the bike would feel pretty gutless after that. Probably have to soup up the engine. probably doing about 75 here, and I'm getting passed up. So in conclusion, if you're thinking about doing the Kawasaki 25 tube pulley mod, I'd recommend it.